Do you have napkins?
It's always good. I have gum, so you're not supposed to. Am I gonna put gum there?
Oh, I thought.
Oh, there we go for your hands.
Put in that cup back there.
You know what? Yeah.
Sacred cup. You don't know what that is. It's a holy separable. I don't know what that
He's
is.
gonna add some flavor to it. I have the privilege of talking about the book of Matthew 24 to 27. It goes like this. Everyone then who hears the words of mine and does them will be like a wise man, hang there, who builds his house on the rock, and the rain fell, and the floods came, and the wind blew and beat on the house. But it did not fall, because it had been founded on the rocks. And everyone who hears these words of mine does them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the wind blew, and it beat against the house, and it fell, and grave was the fall of it. Right here is pretty much the conclusion to the Sermon of the Mount. He gave us. He's talking about it's a pamphlet for discipleship. He gave us different. He talked about how we're the salt and the light, that how Christ came to fulfill the laws, how to handle anger, loss, divorce, oaths, retaliation. He's giving us the way. And 24 says, everyone who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man. He tells us to be wise, to follow his words, chapter 5 through 7, that take this advice he's given us, this sermon that he's been preaching about, and follow it. Build a house on the rock. It tells you, if you build a house on the rock, it's gonna be steady. A rock, something steady, something firm that it's hard to break. When you think of something strong, like say when we're little, our fathers, man, there are rocks, and you think your dad can do everything. And same way I think with my father God, man, he can do everything. He's my Abba Father, and he tells you, if you build your house on my rock, on his rock, on just me following his rules. He gave me a whole chapter 5 through 7 how to handle how we're different than everybody else since we've came to know God, how we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to act, and even like that, I can go back to some stuff, and he tells you it's still gonna be a hard pack. The easiest thing I've heard, it's accepting God in your heart. The hard thing is when you actually take the cross off and you start walking with God, and he tells you have to have the courage to honestly just build a house on the rock and be a wise man. Listen to God and to Jesus right now speaking, and build your house on the rock. Don't be like the foolish man who decided to build his house on the sand, and the water came, the storms came, and swept it, and there was no home left. He tells us, be wise and listen to the words I've spoken to you, and build your house on the rock. And your prize is going to be mighty in heaven. It might not be mighty in here, but when we get to heaven, God's going to give us a mighty prize. He tells us, be wise and listen to what I've told you. And if you ever have time, just write down. You can go to Isaiah 28:16, and it tells us how he's that center rock. He's that rock for everything. He's the rock for our lives. If we honestly make God to be the rock of that life for our lives, man, we would be wise men, and we'd be just trusting God that He's our Father. Abba Father in Spanish means papacito, and in daddy, dad in English it's daddy, and it doesn't have the same meaning. Me calling my dad papacito, I don't have the guts because he sounds homosexual. You're gay, but I have the guts to call God Abba Father, Abba Padre, because I want to build my past 19, almost 20 years. I've built my house in the sand. Whatever I want to do. And multiple times, time came and my house got swept. You know what? 6-7 months ago, when God just broke me and like, man, you need to come back to me. You're going straight to hell. He started opening my eyes that, hey, there's a way you have to behave. Yeah, there's a way you have to follow. There's a way you're supposed to act. Start building the house on the rock. And he made me this promise. You're not going to have riches in here, but in heaven, you're going to have the best of the best if you honestly start listening to me. So I'm telling you, He's our Abba Father. He wants the best for us. And He gives us a way from chapter 5 to 6. The way I see it, it's that he gives us a way to handle stuff. How to don't oaths or lust or all this stuff. How to handle it. I mean, it's gonna be hard. Christian life is not easy. Walking with God's hard. And honestly, I thought before I only started following God, man, Christian life is just going to church and saying, raising my hand once in a while, yeah, I love God, and that's gonna get me to heaven. Man, I was wrong. It takes more than you knowing God. It takes having a relationship with God. And having a relationship with God, when you start having a relationship with God, that's when you start building your house on the rock. And when you start building the house on the rock, nothing's gonna sweep it because God's gonna be there next to you at all times. And that's something we need to understand, that yes, Christian life is hard, but man, the price is worth it. God's so amazing, guys, that sometimes I've talked to Paul, we had coffee, and man, his love for us. It's so amazing that I fall short what I want to say about God sometimes, because I'm like, man, I wish sometimes like my youth group. I was like, man, I wish I want to shake you all up and feel God's love, because He loves you enough that He came and died for us willingly, which He didn't deserve us, and we're not even willing to do anything for Him. And I tell Him, just start building your house on the rock. Start putting your trust more in God, and I promise you, God's gonna love you like no other. I'm not gonna promise you that you're gonna have a good life here, but whenever you do die, whenever you do something, and when you die, man, your price in heaven is gonna be worth way more than here. But if you build your house on the rock and you trust in God at all times, He's not gonna let you go. He's always gonna be there walking with you. We turn our backs against God and everything, but He's always there, and He's always waiting for us like a prodigal son. And that's what He did to me. Something I've started building my house on the rock, and ever since I've been so proud, just me coming back to God and starting to honestly build that relationship with God and starting to build our house on the rock. We need to start building the house on the rock. Marry guys, let Him be the rock of your house. Single guys, us moving in together, let her be that focus, that main rock. We need to let God lead our lives, not us. Let Him drive the car. We shouldn't be driving. I went out of topic, way out of topic, I can tell.
All right, I want to point out your strength first. You were much more prepared. I felt that, in the beginning. Your content, at the beginning, you broke it down well, but you should have let us know what the rock was, putting your foundation in what the rock looks like for someone who wouldn't know. You focused a lot on the rock, which is what you were reading off of. The truth, I would say that you were a bit repetitive, and you deliver your message, but then you began to ramble and repeat yourself a lot. That's pretty much.
Yeah. Can I jump in?
Yeah.
I'll give you some criticism.
That's good.
Whenever I'm a lost person, Gabriel, I think he just said it best when he said, you talked about the rock. He said rock probably about 200 times.
Yeah.
And that's you wanted to drive home the point. My thing is when you always say something's free, you always want to know what the catch is. So you need to talk about what that is. How do you build your house on the rock?
Mm-hmm.
Why do I need to build my house on the rock? What is the rock? How do I build my house on the rock? And then, but if I'm always just saying it's free, yeah, I know it's free, but how do I get it?
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you didn't do. This is my 2 cents.
I really appreciate how, I know, like Gabriel was saying, you were repetitive, but I could tell that you knew what you were talking about, and that I can see your transparency with the Lord, your heart is focused on God. It's you were just excited that it was just hard to kind of communicate it, and all right, man, I really appreciated that, because there, I don't know, I see it in myself sometimes, just how they were talking about just weighty eternal things, and just my heart internal is just so cold. But
I really feel the sincerity when you speak.
Yeah.
But
No.
it's, you can see it, but people want to know how to attain that.
Mhm.
I guess if I was an unbeliever, I would want to know, like, how do I get that? How do I get that? And I'm waiting for that. Like, I'm waiting for you to deliver it. Okay, I'm apply it to my life, and you didn't deliver it. But you can clearly see you're like, you love the Lord and you're sincerity in what you're speaking and you're genuine about that. But the listener wants to
Yeah.
hear, how does that apply to their
And
life?
that's something I think we should start bringing up. It's like, who are we talking to? Because it's hard.
You can pick who you want to talk to. You can pick
Yeah, because like I was at first when I went in there, I was like, man, I'm gonna talk to like new beginners. Before I knew what I was gonna talk to, like new people. But then the House on the Rock, I was like, man, that's kind of for people that are already following God. So I was like, saying I'm already.
You can, hey, okay, I have homework for you to do. Like they've all harped at, it's clearly there's sincerity. You don't have to express it.
Can I borrow your
with
pen,
words.
Michael?
So you might not be able with words to express it. I don't know if that's. I know you also. English is not. I don't think your first language. I'm sure if you preach in Spanish, it wouldn't hinder you as bad. But also the homework because I don't want to use that as an excuse by any means. Is you should while you read the Bible and you see things that stir your heart, because it's clear that your heart's stirred and you understand experientially how much God's done for your life. Like write down those phrases, not even verses. If you want a full verse, get it, but even just phrases that explain why God is so big to you. And then just a page or 2 pages of those verses and memorize those verses so whenever you describe God, it's not, man, he's so good. Because that's, I can hear it, like I can feel it in you, but that's just not getting it for me. Because you know back in your head why you're saying, man, it's just, he's so there. He's so faithful. But you need to know what the scripture says. And he's like, instead of you saying, man, you can say, man, that's why the Bible says right here this. And people are like, okay. You just need to get those words that really describe who God is scripturally, and you'll reinforce that feeling that's already there, I think.
To make it simple for you, I'd say, like, write down 1, 2, 3, beginning, middle, end.
I always do that, but I never follow it.
I mean, just...
I'm glad you're saying that. And where you're going to is application.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, Carlos, and the reason why I said remember your audience too is we're hoping that one day you will be, and you're already doing it now, ministering to people, is what if you went to a math class and they kept talking about how great the math was, and they just kept talking about how they got the answer. It's just so great, it's wonderful, it's great. You don't know how to make those numbers come out to what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you're trying to teach them, this is where God started, this is where he finished, and this is why he is good. And you need to be able to teach. Your point is, as a teacher, you can proclaim God for being good, doing all these wonderful things, but teach us. You got it?
Yeah, I got it.
Just so fun.